They called him the Snake, the one driver NHRA feared losing. But one heartbeat nearly ended everything.
March 15, 1978, 9:12 a.m., NHRA headquarters, Glendora, California. A single phone call makes every executive turn white. Don, the Snake, Prudhomme is on the line threatening to retire at 37 and take the U.S. Army sponsorship, the fattest paycheck in drag racing, with him. If Snake walks, Funny Car dies overnight. This is the true story of the man NHRA feared more than any rule breaker, speed record, or crash. The one driver whose mere presence filled grandstands and whose possible absence could bankrupt the sport. From a broke surfer kid in the 1960s to the yellow 1970 Hot Wheels Cuda that rewrote history, this is Don Prudhomme, the driver they begged, bribed, and built entire classes around just to keep him from walking away. Keep watching. Because what Snake did next didn't just win races, it forced NHRA to rewrite the future of drag racing on its knees. 1960s. From surfboard to snakebite. 1959, 18-year-old Don Prudhomme is a broke Granada Hills surfer kid with bleach blonde hair, zero money, and a 34 Ford coupe he painted primer gray because he can't afford real paint. Every weekend he's at San Fernando dragstrip running 12.90s on cheater slicks while the rich kids laugh at the beach bum, until one night in 1962 he borrows Roland Leong's Hawaiian Dodge, cuts a .003 light, runs 11.21 at 132 miles per hour, and beats every big-name top fueler in California so badly that drag racing legend Tommy Eva walks over, looks at the skinny kid with the snake-quick reflexes, and says the words that change everything, "Son, from now on they're gonna call you the Snake." By 1964 Snake is driving for Greer Black Prudhomme in the famous yellow Bantam Roadster, winning Indy in 65, his first of four, setting low ET of the meet at 7.19, and becoming the first man to pull wheel stands past half-track while the crowd screams because the quiet surfer kid never smiles, never talks trash, just reacts faster than any human should. He jumps to Funny Car in 66 with the wild red, white, and blue Snake Pit Camaro, then the 69 Hot Wheels Barracuda, and by the end of the decade he's already the biggest draw in the sport, filling 40,000-seat grandstands while NHRA executives whisper in private that Funny Car isn't a class yet. It's just whatever Don Prudhomme feels like driving this weekend, because one skinny kid from the San Fernando Valley with ice in his veins and nitro in his blood has already become the only reason half the fans buy tickets. January 1970, Mattel's Hot Wheels executives walk into Don Prudhomme's tiny Van Nuys shop with a blank check and one sentence that changed drag racing forever. "We want the baddest Funny Car on earth, painted screaming yellow, and we want your name on it for every kid in America." Snake takes their money, calls his old friend Keith Black, and together they build the most terrifying Plymouth Barracuda the quarter mile has ever seen. A 1970 Cuda body dipped in fluorescent Hot Wheels, Spectraflame, yellow with blazing red, white, and blue stripes, sitting on a 125-inch loggy chassis stuffed with a 426 Hemi on 90% nitro, blown through a 14-71 GMC supercharger the size of a trash can, riding on massive Goodyear rear slicks that wrinkle like monsters when the clutch dumps. The first time Snake fires it at Lyons Drag Strip on March 14, 1970, 8:47 p.m., the headers spit 30-foot flames, the car lifts the front wheels past the Christmas tree, and 6.18 seconds later at 238.97 miles per hour the clocks freeze while 18,000 people lose their minds because they just watched the first official 6-second, 230 miles per hour Funny Car pass in history, and it's wearing a toy company paint job. Overnight the yellow Cuda becomes the most famous race car on the planet. Little kids stick Hot Wheels versions in their pockets while grown men in the pits turn green with envy because every time Snake stages that fluorescent monster the grandstands sell out in hours, television cameras follow his every move, and NHRA officials realize with absolute terror that their entire sport now revolves around one 29-year-old surfer who can make a 3,200-pound flip-top do things engineers swore were impossible. From Lyons to Indy to Orange County the yellow Cuda destroys everything. First to run 6.0s, first to crack 240 miles per hour, first to pull wheel stands past 1,000 feet, and every single time the other drivers watch their multi-million-dollar programs get eaten alive by a car that started life as a toy commercial, proving once and for all that when Don, the Snake, Prudhomme lights the headers, the only thing faster than the car is the legend growing behind the wheel. The night Snake ran 5.91, first man under 6 seconds. October 4, 1970, 10:37 p.m., Orange County International Raceway, the final night of the PDA Championship under floodlights and a packed house of 22,000 screaming fans who have been waiting all year to see if the rumors are true, Don Prudhomme has turned the yellow Hot Wheels Cuda up to 98% nitro, added a new clutch, and told his crew, "Tonight we go for it or we blow up trying." The other lane holds Gene Snow's beautiful red rambunctious Dodge Charger, the reigning world champion running consistent 6.20s. The tree drops, Snake nails a .428 light, the Cuda explodes off the line on two wheels, the headers spit 50-foot blue flames that light up the California night like a war zone, the car stays on the rear bumper past half-track while the crowd is already on its feet roaring, and when the clocks flash 5.919 seconds at 243.86 miles per hour, the entire grandstand detonates into pure chaos because Don Prudhomme just became the first human being in history to run under 6 seconds in a door slammer, the first to crack 240 miles per hour, and he did it in a fluorescent yellow toy car while the defending champion stares at empty track and the timing tower goes dead silent for 5 full seconds before the announcer's voice cracks over the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, we just witnessed history." Back in the pits, grown men who have been racing for 20 years are hugging each other and crying because they know the sport will never be the same again. Television crews swarm Snake as he climbs out stone-faced, pulls off his helmet, and says only 5 words that become legend: "We can go quicker tomorrow." That single 5.91 run didn't just break the 6-second barrier, it shattered every excuse, every budget, every dream the other teams had, and forced NHRA to realize overnight that Don Prudhomme and his screaming yellow Cuda are now the only reason half of America even knows what a funny car is. The funny car civil war. Snake versus Garlits versus everyone. 1971 to 1974, the quarter mile turns into a blood-soaked battlefield as Don, the Snake, Prudhomme in the screaming yellow Hot Wheels Cuda wages total war against Big Daddy Don Garlits in the revolutionary rear-engine Swamp Rat 14, with every other Nitro star, Tom McEwen, the Ace, McCulloch, Raymond Beadle, Jungle Jim, Lieberman, and the Cheetown Hustler, caught in the crossfire. Every national event becomes a personal duel, every final round a sellout, and every headline screams the same. Question: who is the real king of funny car? Snake strikes first at the 1971 Supernationals with a 6.04 that leaves Garlits shaking his head. Big Daddy fires back at the 1972 Gator Nationals with the first rear-engine 5-second pass. Snake answers at the 1973 Winter Nationals with a 5.97 that makes the grandstands shake so hard the bleachers crack. And the war escalates until the two Dons are trading low ET and top speed records like punches in a bar fight while the rest of the field watches their million-dollar programs get humiliated. Weekend after weekend. Match race promoters offer $50,000 winner-take-all, insane money in 1973, just to book Snake versus Garlits. Fans line up for 3 days to buy tickets, and NHRA officials sweat bullets because the entire sport now revolves around two men who hate losing more than they love breathing. Television ratings explode, grandstands overflow, and little kids across America stop playing with toy trains and start pushing yellow Hot Wheels Cudas across living room floors while their dads scream, moms, and grandpas scream themselves hoarse every time the yellow car and the black Swamp Rat line up side by side. By the end of 1974, the body count is brutal. Snake has 4 straight funny car championships, Garlits has revolutionized dragster design, and every other Nitro team is either broke or broken, proving once and for all that when Don Prudhomme and Don Garlits decide to go to war, the only winners are the fans and the only loser is anyone stupid enough to get between them. Army backing and the biggest paycheck in drag racing. January 1975, 11:42 a.m., a secret meeting at the Pentagon-approved hotel in Washington, D.C. U.S. Army brass sit across from Don Prudhomme and hand him the largest single sponsorship check in motorsports history, reportedly $750,000 per year plus unlimited parts, travel, and a personal helicopter, making the quiet surfer kid from Granada Hills the highest-paid racer on Earth overnight, on one condition: he paints the yellow Hot Wheels Cuda Army olive drab green, slaps U.S. Army, in giant white letters across the quarter panels, and becomes the face of Army recruiting for an entire generation of teenagers who grew up watching Snake blow doors off everyone. Snake signs. The car debuts at the 1975 Winter Nationals in full military livery with a giant screaming eagle on the hood, and the first pass is a 5.88 at 247 miles per hour that makes the Pomona grandstands shake so hard the concrete cracks while 62,000 fans, many in uniform, give the longest standing ovation in NHRA history. Overnight, the Army funny car becomes the most famous race vehicle in America, Recruiting stations report lines around the block, little kids salute the green Cuda in grocery stores, and every time Snake wins, which is almost every weekend from 1975 to 1978, the Army hands him another trophy and another bonus check while NHRA executives quietly panic because the entire sport now depends on one man who can walk away tomorrow and take the Pentagon's money with him. By 1978, Snake has won 4 straight funny car championships in the Army car, set both ends of the national record 27 times, and turned the U.S. Army into the coolest brand on the planet, proving that when Uncle Sam writes the check and Don Prudhomme drives the car, the only thing faster than the nitro is the speed at which the rest of the world surrenders. February 9, 1975, Pomona Winter Nationals, the opening bell of the most brutal 4-year massacre in funny car history. Don Prudhomme rolls out the freshly painted Army olive drab Cuda, stages against Ed, the Ace, McCulloch's gorgeous red, white, and blue Revolution Charger. The tree drops, Snake cuts a .412 light, the Army car explodes off the line on one wheel, headers spitting 40-foot blue flames that light up the California sky, and 5.87 seconds later at 248.76 miles per hour the clocks freeze while 65,000 people jump to their feet screaming because the defending champion just got murdered by a military recruiting ad on Slicks. From that moment until the end of 1978 the pattern never changes. Snake wins the Winter Nationals, Gator Nationals, Spring Nationals, Summer Nationals, U.S. Nationals, Fall Nationals, and World Finals so often that announcers literally run out of new ways to say. Prudhomme does it again. The Army Cuda racks up 34 national event wins, 4 straight NHRA funny car championships, 1975, 1976, 1977, 1978, sets the national speed record 19 times and ET record 22 times, and turns every other nitro team into moving roadblocks while the green car becomes the most feared silhouette on Earth. Competitors try everything. Garlitz builds new rear-engine cars, McEwen switches to Dodge, Beetle spends $1 million on Blue Max Mustangs, but every Sunday they still watch the Army Cuda disappear at 250+ mph while Snake climbs out stone-faced, salutes the troops in the stands, and calmly tells his crew, "Load it up, we're going home." By the end of 1978 Prudhomme has won 72% of the rounds he entered over 4 years, forced half the funny car field into retirement or bankruptcy, and turned the U.S. Army into the winningest sponsor in motorsports history, proving once and for all that when Don, the Snake, Prudhomme is getting Pentagon money and driving the fastest door slammer on the planet, mercy is not in the vocabulary. The retirement threat that paralyzed NHRA. March 15, 1978, 9:12 a.m., NHRA headquarters, Glendora. The phone rings and President Dallas Gardner picks it up to hear the calm, ice-cold voice of Don Prudhomme on the other end saying 8 words that make every executive in the building turn ghost white. "I'm done after this season, tell the Army." Snake is 37, has just won 4 straight championships, has more money than he can spend, has a baby daughter at home, and has decided the 250 miles per hour fire-breathing funny car lifestyle is no longer worth the risk. He hangs up and the entire building goes into full panic mode because if Snake walks he takes the U.S. Army sponsorship, now worth over $1.2 million a year, takes half the ticket-buying crowd, and leaves funny car a dead class overnight. For the next 8 months NHRA does everything short of getting on their knees. They offer him appearance money, they promise to build new safety rules around whatever he wants, they secretly fly Army generals to his shop to beg, they even leak stories to the press that Prudhomme is bigger than the sport itself, while competitors quietly pray he really does retire so they can finally win again. Snake toys with them like a cat with a mouse. He wins the 1978 Winter Nationals anyway, then the Gator Nationals, then the Spring Nationals, each time climbing out and saying nothing while NHRA officials sweat bullets watching the Green Army Cuda disappear at 252 miles per hour knowing every pass could be the last. By the U.S. Nationals in September the tension is unbearable. 82,000 fans pack Indy holding "Don't Go Snake" signs. Television ratings hit all-time highs, and backstage Gardner personally offers Prudhomme a blank check and a promise to make funny car safer if he'll just stay 1 more year. Snake finally agrees to a 1-year extension, but only on his terms, new canopy, better fire systems, and total control of his program. And when he wins the 1978 championship anyway, the relief in Glendora is so thick you can cut it with a knife because the sport just survived its closest brush with death. The retirement threat wasn't a bluff. It was the ultimate power move from the one man who knew NHRA needed him 10 times more than he needed NHRA, and for the rest of his career every rule change. October 1980, 11:47 p.m., Irvine Lions drag strip. the last legal pass ever run on the historic California concrete. Don Prudhomme, now 39, fires the brand new black and gold Pepsi Challenger aero-bodied Cuda one last time under the lights, pulls a 1,200-foot wheel stand that lights up the night sky, shuts it off at 5.78 seconds and 254.71 miles per hour, climbs out, takes off his helmet, looks at the 18,000 fans who have followed him for 20 years, and quietly says, "That's it, boys, I'm done," then walks away while the entire grandstand stands in stunned silence before erupting into a 20-minute standing ovation that shakes the old bleachers. He retires at the absolute peak, 52 national event wins, 4 straight funny car titles, the only man to win in Top Fuel and Funny Car, the face of the sport for 2 decades, and leaves NHRA reeling because the king just walked off the throne without warning. For 6 years he stays gone, builds a business, raises his daughter, and watches funny car attendance drop 40% while promoters beg him on their knees to come back. Finally, in 1986, the itch returns and Snake shocks the world at the Winter Nationals by unveiling the black Skull Bandit Pontiac Trans Am with Larry Minor money, wins first time out in the new body, then wins again in Gainesville, then again in Houston, proving at age 45 he's still faster than drivers half his age. The comeback lasts 3 glorious seasons, 1986 to 1989, 12 more national event wins, another championship battle in 87, and every time the black Trans Am fires the crowd roars like it's 1975 again because the Snake never lost the reflexes. But the final curtain falls October 22, 1989, Pomona World Finals. Snake loses in the semifinals to Ed McCulloch, climbs out, hugs his crew, walks to the top end, stands alone in front of 70,000 people who know this is really the end, raises one hand in salute, and walks off the track forever while the entire sport stands and cries because they just watched the greatest driver who ever lived leave the quarter mile on his own terms, still unbeaten in spirit, still the man NHRA feared losing. More than any rule change or crash in history, why Snake will always be the face of the sport. October 22, 1989, 5:47 p.m., Pomona World Finals, the exact second on, the Snake, Prudhomme raised his hand to salute 70,000 fans and walked off the quarter mile for the last time, leaving behind a legacy no driver has ever matched. 49 funny car wins, 14 Top Fuel wins, 4 straight funny car championships, 1975 to 78. The first man under 6 seconds, the first man over 240, 250, 260 miles per hour, the only man to win Indy in both nitro classes, the kid from Granada Hills who turned a $4,000 34 Ford into the yellow Hot Wheels Cuda that made little kids dream and grown men quit, the Army-backed legend who sold out grandstands and forced NHRA to rewrite safety rules, sponsorship deals, and entire classes just to keep him from retiring and taking the sport's heart with him. Snake didn't just race, he redefined what racing could be, turning funny car from a sideshow into the main event, turning nitro into a household name, turning a skinny surfer with ice-cold reflexes into the one man NHRA feared, losing more than any crash or controversy in their 74-year history. Today in 2025, at 84 years old, Prudhomme's name still makes veterans stand a little straighter, still makes old-timers in the pits wipe a tear when they hear that 5.91 second pass called out on grainy VHS tapes, still makes kids who never saw him race by Hot Wheels Cudas because their grandpas told them stories about the man who beat Garlitz, McEwen, and every rulebook with nothing but a Hemi and a death wish. The yellow Cuda, the Army green, the Pepsi Challenger, the Skull Bandit, they weren't just cars, they were weapons of a one-man revolution that proved when you're fast enough, fearless enough, and loved enough, no sanctioning body, no rival, no retirement can ever erase you. So right now, I need every gearhead watching to do 4 things. Drop a Snake in the comments if Snake is the GOAT, type your favorite Prudhomme memory, Lions, Indy, that 5.91. Smash that like button so hard the algorithm smells nitro, and subscribe to Regal Rides with the bell on because we're bringing you more untold legends, more nitro wars, more stories the rulebooks tried to bury. Visit our channel for more videos that make your heart race faster than a 5-second pass. Don Prudhomme didn't just win races, he won souls, and 36 years after he walked away, the quarter mile still belongs to the Snake.